Today's show is brought to you by homebrewsupply.com. Homebrew Supply is your one-stop shop for brew day ingredients, recipes, equipment, and more. Take advantage of everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping only at homebrewsupply.com. Go to homebrewsupply.com right now and use our promo code HHH to get 5% off your order. homebrewsupply.com. Let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hello there and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as down there, the president and resident chief keg washer at kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Good.
Hot, warm.
Very hot.
Todd,
Very hot.
Todd, you look sweaty. What is going on down there?
I turned my AC up in my building yesterday because I was like, oh, it's too cold in here. It's 105 degrees. It's a little expensive to keep it cold, and maybe I turned it up a little too much because I just walked in here to do the podcast, and it's hot in here.
I was just saying, you look like a man inconvenienced. Drink plenty of water. I mean, you do actually. Of all the people I know, you usually are pretty good about drinking water.
I love water. I drink a lot of it.
Yeah, you love beverages. I mean, we could just.
I like pretty much any kind of beverage.
Yeah, just anything that'll go down. Do you have Topo Chico there? Because I'm coming up soon. I don't know if you.
We just got some more Topo Chicos with you in mind. So.
Hey, I like that. It has been. I hate to say miserably hot because I don't want to sound like a whiner, but y'all can back me up. In Texas right now, Central Texas, it's been pretty damn miserable. The heat. It's been, like you're telling me yesterday, James, it was 105 when you left the office.
Yeah, normally when you get in your car, it reads a lot higher. Now I'm talking 10 minutes down the road, it was still 105.
It was on the weather. I mean, that's what it said on the Weather Channel. It was really that hot. God, it was hot.
Yeah, and that's 10 minutes, like you said, and your AC's already been blowing, and you've got a good breeze going. That's when it finally actually has accurate ambient temperature reading. And that's when like, oh my gosh, this is way too hot. Yeah, we have my office in here still needs my AC guy. He doesn't listen to this, but Brett, come on, dude. Like, quit ignoring my calls, man. I need my little mini DUT or the DUT system, the mini split. I need it to be recharged because
have you cleaned your air filter?
Oh yeah, I clean it every month. All the time. It's one of those. I did. Oh, don't you look at me like that.
Kind of like you cleaning your beer lines every 2 weeks.
I don't have beer lines because they're at my dad's. But I don't know what he does with his beer lines. We don't clean every two. I don't know anyone who does every 2 weeks besides you. And people who write in and ask about cleaning questions now, they're like, hey, you don't have to take this on the show because I don't want Todd to know that I only clean mine like once a quarter. Like people, you have shamed people into like feeling bad about that. James, do you clean your home kegerator lines every 2 weeks? Yeah.
No.
Exactly. See, nobody does that.
But I don't. When I get a new keg, I might clean it then.
Exactly. New keg, perfect time. Or when you run out of a keg, you float a keg, perfect time. Yeah. Todd is so and sometimes I think he's doing it to piss me off because he knows I want to drink. Well, I'll be up there and he's like, can't touch the taps yet. We gotta clean them first. And then wait, 2 hours later.
You're so exaggerating.
Have you never done that to me?
So you know what? His beer always tastes fresh coming out the taps.
Okay.
So
I'll give him that.
There's something to be said to say. Hey, by the way, I just looked. 109 tomorrow is the high.
I was looking too. We both looked at the same thing.
That's brutal. I don't know.
109 is hot.
And right now it says it's 97 in Austin. And tomorrow we're looking at a high of 104. 104 is the high in Austin tomorrow. Huh. That's to be miserable.
Dang.
Yeah, no.
107 Sunday, 104.
You know what sucks too? We have to take Esther. So this is like, every quarter she has to do her follow-ups on her craniotomy that she had back in September. And she has to go this will be her third COVID test that she has to take every time before we go into her for a procedure. She has to get COVID tested. And we have to do the drive-through, and it's right outside. I feel bad for those docs because the docs that are doing it at the hospital there are in full PPE, like basically hazmat suit. They are going to be dying. And our appointment that they scheduled for us is at 2:50 p.m. tomorrow, Friday. Like, they're going to be dying of sweat. I'm hoping that they're just quick with the test. Like, okay, go. We got to get this off of us, because I'm going to be miserable with the door open. I'm going to ask them, like, hey, can we get this going? My AC's getting lost there in the open door. But it has been miserable. But I could talk about that the whole show. Let me get into some small talk segue. First off, look what came in the mail, guys. Look what I got. Todd, you want me to get you
Hey.
I can get you this shirt, Todd. I know a guy.
I'm good. I'm good.
But how
thanks.
come the shirt?
It looks like you're wearing a plastic bag. I bet that's hot.
Hey, shut up. And this is one of those next level shirts, the kind you don't really like because they fit too much. The form fitting ones. But
that
look,
sounds hot too. I bet it's half polyester.
This shirt kind of makes me look fat. But anyway, I am so impressed. Our Teespring store, we started using them because it can get products out to order without us having to keep inventory. They take a pretty big cut, but I've been impressed, one, with the quality, and two, the turnaround time. I ordered this. When did I talk to y'all? We did the show last Thursday, and so I ordered it Wednesday last week, and this came in Monday, or maybe it was Tuesday. But either way, it was a quick turnaround. I've been impressed with them. So if you go to homebrewhappyhour.com and you click on the store merch link in the menu, it'll redirect you, and you can look at all the stuff we have, including this. And if it wasn't so damn hot, I would have worn my my German shirt about us being the best podcast aller Zeiten, but it is way too hot for that. So we have.
So how much are those?
$24.95 is what the retail price, and then they do free shipping. And I did the $5.95 shipping, which may have brought it in like a few days earlier, according to their like time calculation. And I think also where I live, I think they have printing distribution all over the country, and so I think there happens to be one near me that got it out pretty quick.
You paid $25 for a shirt and then paid another $6 to get it a few days faster?
No, so I paid. So when you do samples, when you make them, if you're the creator, they'll let you like $15 for the shirt instead of 25. And then, so I rounded up.
But you have to pay shipping.
Right, you do. And I paid $5. It was like $21 after everything was said.
Okay.
So I've spent more on way dumber things, Todd. We both know this to be true. I'll just leave it at that. But
no, the reason I'm asking, I had a reason for that, is we should really put our new shirt on that we made on maybe on one of the retail websites, the sponsor websites, and I don't know. We could probably sell it for like $12 or something, right?
Oh, that's a great idea. It would have to be on.
It's 100% cotton. It's not too hot.
Oh God. And it
has a little logo on the corner, so you're not wearing a plastic bag. That'd be cool.
He is so annoying, man. Yes, Mr. Burns, that is a great idea. No, it really is a good idea. We could do that easily. It would need to be on one of the retail sites because we don't have credit card processing or any of that on homebrewhappyhour.com, but we could put it on Kekenich and real easy, or Homebrew Supply. When I come up next week, let's do that. Let's do that.
Go ahead and put it on there, and we'll talk about it, because I love those shirts. I love those shirts.
Yes, you do. I know. I'm done talking about that. Speaking of our Patreon, recipes are shipping out. Some have already gone out this week. The vast majority, I'm told, because our Imperial yeast packs are coming in tomorrow, Friday. So they'll wait till Monday because they don't want your recipes sitting in a FedEx warehouse one of the days on Sunday and then going back out to you. They don't want inflated yeast packs. So if you have,
plus it's going to be a lot cooler next week. And that'll help a lot because it'll be like 10 degrees cooler. I think that'll help a lot.
And our patrons, we have the best community. I think we all agree on that. We can already establish we have the best. Everyone's been understanding, and everyone loves that idea. Joe's the one who'd hit me up like, do you think they'd mind? Like, I know we get the yeast in on like Thursdays or Fridays. can I just wait till Monday? Because I would really hate for, it to sit in a hot warehouse, blah, blah, blah. And when I reached out to every patron that I've reached out to so far, they're like, yeah, I'd much rather not have a bloated, dead bag of yeast.
We've done something else too. I think we should point out we're actually using a insulating bubble wrap that's got metal in it, and we're wedging, I think, 2 ice packs now with that in the middle, with wrapped up in that better insulation. So I think that's going to help as well.
You are. If you go to our Instagram account, you can see the photo I put, or our Facebook page. I showed our Homebrew Supplies Araceli working up there. She's great. She does incredible.
She's awesome.
Great. She's usually, when y'all get your recipes, it's usually her that packed them for you. And if it's something happened that was bad, blame Joe. It was Joe who did those, but all the good ones was Araceli. But she staged a photo for me to take of one she was making, a pack of Y yeast with that insulation stuff and the ice packs, and we are also shipping out. Patreons are getting a complimentary extra pack. So if you order on homebrewsupply.com or Cat Connection liquid yeast, you already get a complimentary ice pack, one of them. Guys, It is so hot these days. On the website, it says, if you're ordering liquid yeast, consider paying the 99 cents for an extra one. You should. It'll help. It'll go a long way. You should. And so I told Todd, we're just going to pay for him as the podcast for these recipe kits to go out, because we want to make sure everyone gets their imperial yeast the way it's supposed to be received. And even though some of them have been a little bloated, thank God, knock on wood, imperial is so strong that they still have been working out. And some people did a starter just to be safe, but they've been working out for people, fortunately. So, but we're going to add an extra ice pack as well on top of that insulating material, and we're trying to give the best possible chance for that recipe kit to get to you fresh and good to go. Once you receive it, immediately throw that yeast pack in the fridge until you're going to brew. And those you can pitch cold, so imperial packs at least, so you can keep it in the fridge till brew day. But Todd, you look like
if that doesn't work, we're going to have Josh start to deliver them in his minivan with the air conditioner on high the entire trip.
Todd gave me so much grief, James, because last trip I came up with the minivan. He goes, "Oh, you're renting minivans now?" I was like, "I love them. I love minivans. What's the problem?"
He owns a minivan and then he rents a minivan. That's wonderful.
I just assumed that's all they had.
Yes, that is what happened. That was I didn't request it. I don't know. We went on that beach trip, so I did request it. And then
did you?
I used the same vehicle the week before the beach trip, for the beach trip, and after. And it was wonderful. I love minivans. I can't say enough good things about them.
I remember when I traveled a lot in a former job, sometimes I would get to the rental counter and they would like, "Oh, Mr. Burns, guess what? We've upgraded you to a minivan." And I'd be like, "Okay, can you downgrade me then?"
Hey, that's the upgrade. Yeah, I know. We're in different parts of our life, dude. Because when they tell me like, "Hey, you have the ability to get a minivan," I'm like, "Oh, no way! This is the best day ever. It's gonna be a fun trip." So talking. The whole reason I brought up the Patreon recipe kits is because it's not too late to get in for August. Our choices are between Bob Toots Cream Ale or the Ocarina Grapefruit IPA. They are both shipping out with Imperial Flagship, and they're both delicious recipes. We've all had them before. They're delicious and they're seasonally appropriate. So they're both good hot weather beers. And then my segue from all that Imperial talk is announcement. I'm going to inject drum roll here. We have Casey Hellwig from Imperial doing this month's live Q&A with us. It's
awesome.
I know. I'm going to be up there at the ranch for this next week on Friday, August 21st at 1 p.m. Central. So if you have questions for Casey, you can submit them to Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com. Anything about yeast. It doesn't have to just be imperial yeast. Any questions you have regarding yeast, making starters, which, spoiler alert, they're not going to tell you to make a starter. A bunch of anything you have that you want to know in the world of yeast, write them to us, Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com. I'll make sure they get submitted and that Casey takes it. She is a fun person. We've known Casey for a long time. Imperial has always been so good to us. And even before the podcast that they were sponsoring it, Imperial's just the best. We love their products. We love the people. And when I hit up Casey, she was like, "I would love to do it. That'd be great." So That's, they're really good people. I'm so excited about doing this.
She's sharp too. I mean,
So sharp.
She'll be really good.
So sharp too. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy it. So yes, that'll be on Friday, August 21st at 1 p.m. Central. Every member of our Patreon's invited to it. Right now it's broadcasted live in our private Facebook group. If you're one of the ones that don't do Facebook, or you just got rid of it, or you'd rather not do it, email me, joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com, and I can send you the private stream link that you'll be able to tune in without being logged into Facebook. So
everybody does Facebook. Who wouldn't do Facebook?
Well, now that people like your age demographics are doing Facebook, the younger people are jumping off. And then James too. James, it's been 2 or 3 years.
That was a joke, George James. Yeah.
I kind of figured that was the case.
How long has it? You've been off it for like 2 years, or no, like 3 or 4?
6 years, 7 years.
Time flies. I thought you had it when you first came to work. You never had it.
No, I haven't had it since 2013 or 2014. The year before I started with Todd.
All I'm going to say is you're missing some real good content on my page. Tell him, Todd. You're missing some real good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of wrestling stuff on his page.
And I just recently deleted my Reddit file.
Did you really? No way.
Reddit's gotten bad. It's just occupied by nothing but trolls. Nobody has anything good to say. Anything. You can't post anything without somebody just ripping you to shreds. So
I apologize for having 13 alternate accounts that I've been bothering you with. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I'm sorry for doing that.
No, you have never. I'm telling you. I posted a picture of my dog at the beach smiling, and the lady just ripped me up saying that I was abusing my dog because it was being burned up in the sun. And I was like, you know what?
Gotta go.
Delete.
Yeah.
I deleted the profile and I'm done. Yeah.
God, that lady can't imagine the type of abuse we put our dogs through when we were young. We used to go camping on the beach. I remember one time one of them was eating scraps. They found scraps on the beach, and let's just say there was some difficulty with the number 2 later that day.
Oh God. I don't know.
Funny.
I don't know how to segue to our questions, but I'm going to. We've got 3 questions for today's show, starting from our buddy Mike W., who uses submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Mike wrote, after finding your channel on YouTube and watching the older video about electric all-in-one systems, as you call them, I am going to buy a Robobrew soon. My question is whether I should get the 110 version or the 220 version. The 110 version seems like it would be easier to use and I could plug it anywhere, but my understanding is that the 220 would be better because it's more powerful. What do you think, and which would you choose? Mike, wonderful question. It did remind me, James, I feel like we just recorded that video and we just published it, and it's going on 3 years. 3 years. Can you imagine? Like, I mean, it's going on. It's been 30 months or whatever. But still, it's been a long time since we published it. And like the Foundry's come out since then. Mash and Boil came out with a pump since then. But I will start it off by saying this, Mike. The Robobrew is a solid choice. The Robobrew, we've brewed on them, and I'm going to let you take it, James, because you've brewed on the Robobrew, both versions of it, I do believe, and so you have very knowledgeable experience with it. What are your thoughts towards Mike's question about the 110 versus the 220?
220, if you can do it all day long, it heats up so much easier and faster than a 110. That would be Todd. Now, well, we were all talking about it earlier. You could get an extension cord and just use your dryer plug and just brew in your laundry room and you'll be just fine. But yes, if you can do 220, do it. It's worth it.
Todd, the 220, because we accidentally had gotten a Robobrew 220 in once. I say accidentally. We had ordered for a customer a 110 and they sent us the 220 and then they corrected it and we just kept the 220. That was the one that y'all took to Germany, right?
We taught Germans how to brew on that system. Yes,
that's so cool. That's a bucket list item. I have pictures to prove we did that.
Yeah, it was great, and I agree with James. The 220 is the way to go, but I would say if it's possible. I mean, if you, like James said, you could unplug your dryer and plug into that. That may be where a lot of people would brew in the area where their dryer is. It depends on their house, obviously, but you could, it's not that hard to put in a 220 plug. A lot of people, their box is often in or around the garage. So if that's the case, it's pretty easy. Now, if you live in an apartment or you live in somewhere where you're not going to be able to easily put in a 220 plug and you don't have one in there, then you would have to have the 110. But if you could possibly do the 220, I would do the 220.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. The people for sure who couldn't do it would be like in an American city in an apartment where you don't mess with your own electrical and it'd be difficult. But James, you brought up a good point. The extension cables that you can get what do they have? You could probably get them fairly long, I imagine, right?
Yeah, we were looking at them when we were working on building that system that Todd has, and I was surprised at how many different styles of 220 extension cords you can get on Amazon. Just need to make sure how many plugs your dryer has, and what the I think the brewing machine is a 3-prong. Is that right, Todd?
I don't know that. I don't even know if it did it have a plug when we got it? I can't. Okay, so
yeah, we had to cut it off, but you get the system in first and see.
A lot of dryers are NEMA 1450, which is the 4-prong one. So that's a really common size now in any modern dryer. But if it is the 3-prong, I know you can buy one that converts it over. The only difference is that it doesn't have a ground on the old 3-prong ones. Because they had power.
And then common, right?
And then common, because they would do it through the common. But it's that could be it. Because,
and
that's what mine is. Mine's a 3-prong at my house.
Okay.
Well, and to clarify, because Todd, you kind of glanced over the whole. Hey, we had to cut the plug. They cut it because they were taking it to Germany, and it had to they had to make a European plug on the end of it. So that would not be the normal. If you were doing that with your system at home, that's not the normal. It would come with the appropriate plug, and you would just put it into your 220. I believe. I don't think that it comes with the options of giving you one or the other, but. I haven't actually brewed on a 220 all-in-one. I've brewed on y'all's. Obviously, all of y'all's 3 tiers are 220, and I know from brewing on those compared to brewing with gas that y'all's is night and day more efficient, and it seems like it's easier to have a pinpoint on temperature control with those kinds of electric systems. So I would be totally willing to do a 220 all-in-one at my house too if we did an all-in-one like that, which I guess kind of we are, because I took home that Spite Solo, which we still need to brew on, and that is I would call that an all-in-one, right? I mean, it's a brew in a basket. It's basically it is an all-in-one. It's just not the 5-gallon little ones like what we're discussing right now. But
I mean, the problem with 220 plugs in the United States is that in receptacles is that there's a ton of them. I mean, we have basically 110, and there's a 15 and 20 amp, but they're not that much different. But the 220, they just have a ton of them for different uses, so it can get confusing. But they pretty much make adapters for one to go to any of the other ones, so you can find it on Amazon.
So are y'all all on board by saying, if at all possible, you would always recommend the 220?
Sure, if you can do it.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. I like straightforward answers where we're all on board. That makes it go quick. and I agree. When I think about it, off my tiny little millennial brain, or maybe I'm the exception to the rule of millennials. I'm dumb, guys, is what I'm getting at. I think of 220 as being intimidating in regards to that limits my space or that limits where I can brew or whatever. But like James said, the extension cable. But even then, most people, like myself included, my dad and I, we're not ever thinking, let's brew over here today. And then maybe in the living room, if it's an electric all-in-one, like a Grainfather or the Robobrew, let's brew in the kitchen today. We pretty much have our brew space. So I would imagine a lot of people are that way too. And putting a 220 in would also future-proof them if he ever upgraded to an electric all-in-one, or pardon me, like an electric 3-tier system. Sure. If you made a brew space and put a 220, you'll always find a use for it. In my opinion, I think you would always find a use for it. So
I found that plug that it comes with. It's a NEMA 6-30R.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
so it's a 3-prong plug.
So he could find the appropriate extension based off that if need be, or just install the appropriate one. Because that's what matters the most, right, Todd, is making sure you just have the right one installed.
Yeah, and that'd be a little easier to install too, because I think it's a lower amp, so you could use a smaller wire as well. So yeah.
And I'm looking on Amazon.
The 30 is the, okay, good. So the 30 is the amps. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, so if you plug it in, if you have a 4-prong and you plug it into that, that's 50 amps. So you have plenty of amps. It doesn't. You could plug a 30 into a 50, but if you plug a 50 into a 30, it's only going to give the 50-30, if that makes sense. So that makes it a lot easier because it's a smaller one. You can use a smaller gauge wire.
I brain farted for a half a second and all that sounded like Greek to me. So I'm just going to nod my head and say, 50s and 30s and math is good.
We have an electrician listening to us. It's rolling his eyes right now going, that guy's a freaking idiot. I can't believe he just said that.
Oh man, yeah, my inbox or YouTube comments are going to be great this week.
Oh no, more Todd's an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, do I forward those to you? Mike, thank you so much for submitting the question. This is a great time to remind you, as always, if we take your question on a show, we will give you a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Thank you, Mr. Burns. All right, moving on to question number 2. It came from our friend Sharon R., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com as well. Sharon wrote, I'm new to the show, but I have been enjoying it, and I thank you all for what you're doing. I'm also new to brewing beer, and I've completed 3 batches from cans over the last several months. The only issue I'm having is that every beer ends up with a faint sour apple taste to them. It's been all 3 beers, and all 3 have used the same yeast packets, so I'm wondering if that's the likely culprit. Or do you think it's something else like the pot I'm using or the bucket I have for fermenting? I'd eventually like to brew something other than canned beers, but I also want to do this well before biting off more than I can chew. Cheers, Sharon. That's a very good approach to it. And canned,
cans is cool too.
Yeah. And canned beers, I don't even know if you carry Todd. You carry some of those Cooper cans, like the pre-hopped ones. That's still a thing.
Yeah.
Those are great introduction into brewing in the world.
That's how I started.
The world of extract brewing, it gets you into the process, and this is a great example. Sharon, if we can help her figure it out, we'll have some of the logistics figured out so that when she jumps maybe to partial mash before all grain, she might do that. She'll know, oh, this is where I was having this issue with just the can kits, and set that as a priority or whatever. But guys, I've had the sour apple beer taste, which I had to look up the word because I forgot how to pronounce it.
Very hard to pronounce.
Acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde. I have had acetaldehyde, and someone's going to write us in, and this is how you pronounce it, you idiot. It's not Maybach. It's acetaldehyde. I've had it before, but my understanding was it was the fermentation temperature. James, what usually causes this sour apple taste to pop up? And from the sound of it, she said it's faint. Does that mean it's going to get worse, or is that common?
No, usually if it's faint, just give it a little time to condition. It'll eventually go away. Sometimes if you don't pitch enough yeast, or you don't the yeast doesn't have enough oxygen, it can create that. It's a byproduct of fermentation, producing alcohol. So a lot of times when somebody has that issue and they ask me, I just tell them let it condition, let it sit for a little longer. It'll eventually go away.
That's how it's happened in our keg. The one time it's happened before, where it was very strong at first, and then over time it went away. It never truly went away. And it made sense that you would say about the yeast, because I took home an old pack of yeast for this, and I didn't do a starter. And I'm wondering if that could have been it for that batch, if it was just not quite strong enough to get the beer to where it needed to be. Todd,
low numbers can cause that, and of course not oxygenating the wort enough.
Yeah, Todd, have you had any experience with the acetaldehyde?
Oh, yeah. I think anybody that's brewed for long enough's had the experience. It seems like any time that I brew one that's, that's not an all grain, whether, this isn't even a mini mash. This is just pure liquid extract, I'm guessing, right, from what she's saying. So it seems like any time I brew one of those, I get an off taste. and it's not like terrible. I have one of my Keyser right now that we did when we did the filming to show people how to do it, and you get that tiny little. You can always almost tell that it's an extract. I wonder. I don't really know the reason for that 100%. What do you think, James?
I think sometimes the kit in a can, we've talked to people about the, liquid malt extract is, it's got a shelf life, and even setting in a can, I think the longer it sits in the can, the more that's going to be prevalent in your beer. Wouldn't you agree?
I guess I always get some kind of a slight aftertaste that I don't get when I brew all grain, and we may have a listener that could explain that even better than we can. I call it the extract taste sometimes.
Yeah, the kit in a can.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't mean to discourage people from doing it, because I enjoy the beer I have in there and I drink it all the time. But if you put a blindfold on me, I could and had me taste that and an all grain one, I could. And said, which ones do you think's the extract? There's a taste that I could say, yeah, that's the extract.
Is it kind of like when people say, oh, that is gamey? Where gamey is not actually a descriptive word, but it is in the same way where we all know what each other means.
Yeah, we all know what it means. That's a great analogy, I guess. Is that an analogy, Josh?
I don't know. I don't know. I was sitting there thinking, I was reading the stain on acetaldehyde, and again, brain farting, and it meant now. So it's saying, you always want to make sure you pitch a sufficient quantity of yeast for the beer you're brewing. And this article recommends using a starter. Don't show Owen or Casey at Imperial. Obviously, healthy yeast, and aerating your wort is in big, bold letters too. And then it says it can be caused by fermentation temperature not being appropriate as well. So it does appear like it's not, like I would think that this might be more common than any other off flavor, or maybe diacetyl might be the second or the most common off flavor, that buttery taste. I know.
I think the most common would definitely be oxidation.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that too.
No, you're right. The cardboard, cardboard.
And I
beer.
think with the new extract brewer, especially when you're talking about kits in a can, you're going to have two. You're probably doing the acetaldehyde and the oxidation as well. So you're kind of getting a combination of both.
And I wonder, I think we can go ahead and reassure Sharon, it's not your pot. The kettle you're using, it's not that. It is not that. Could it be the bucket? No, because this isn't really an infection byproduct or off flavor from like an infection. Like it's not a bacteria that's sitting in the bucket that is waiting to infect your beer. So I doubt it'd be that, right? I don't want to sound stupid because I'm not editing this out. So I would think that it would probably not. It would have to either be the yeast. If all of those, it could have been unhealthy yeast. If Sharon, I'll reach out to you and maybe we can get an update if she has a date on those cans. Because unfortunately, sometimes cans sit on shelves for a long time.
Yeah, and she can email me too if she's got any questions.
I'll have her.
Any one of us.
And I will have her. Yeah, Jay Carlson at cmbecker.com. Throw that out there for any hate mail coming our way. But I would say, yeah, it might be the yeast, and it might have been your fermentation temperature. Or made sure, like brewing is easy when we are all on our numbers, like when we hit our temperature numbers during the brew day, when we have pitched the right yeast numbers. Like that's why I love Imperial, healthy Imperial, 200 billion cells. It's going to be a good fermentation when you have a healthy pack of yeast like that. And then hitting your fermentation temperatures as well is all going to lead to drinking the beer how you want it to taste, not like, oh God, what is that? Like the last 2 batches I've done, unfortunately. But also, the cold, like that for me made it more obvious. Like, Dad, let's spend some money and get a nice conical on glycol, because we don't want to. I don't want to stop brewing because it's 105 outside and it's hard to keep an area within temperature range for your yeast. So they made solutions for that. But yes, Sharon, thank you so much for submitting your question. I'm going to reach out and try to get some more details. Or if you're listening, Sharon, you can just write to Todd or to James. If you write to me, I'm going to forward you to Todd or to James. So thank you for submitting your question. Last question of the show, guys, came from our buddy Carl Carl L., who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Carl wrote, I've been researching adjuncts and when to add them. Lots of places are suggesting in the secondary fermenter for things like fruits, herbs, spices, etc. But as a relatively new brewer, I haven't been using a secondary yet, just going straight to my carboy for a couple of wheats and then bottling. My question is basically, when should I add those adjuncts that are supposed to be added to the secondary if I'm not using one? Do I add to the primary? Would I, in air quotes, have to be using a secondary in order to use some of these ingredients? Thanks, Carl. That's a great question because we've had a few shows where it's been revealed, James, you don't secondary. Todd, you do frequently. And then I always have, just because we have the time and the space, and my dad wants as bright a beer, and we don't have a conical yet. James, I don't use adjuncts unless we're going to consider dry hopping an adjunct. Are you like, what would you do in a scenario like this with Carl?
Well, I mean, Todd might be the better one to talk about that because he does more of that than I do. But if I was going to do something heavy on adjuncts, I would probably do a secondary and add them.
You would make that part of your brew day plan, like, hey, I don't normally secondary, but I want this style, and I'm going to add this adjunct. Therefore, I'm going to secondary.
Yeah, because I mean, the end goal is to try to get as clear as possible on top of the flavoring for the adjuncts. But that's why I would probably move it into a secondary.
Mr. Burns,
what do you think, Todd?
I mean, I always secondary. I don't remember the last time I didn't, so I would put it in the secondary. But I mean, you could add it towards the end of the primary. It would be pretty much the same thing. Sure. I mean, you're not going to get super clear probably with a primary unless you let it. Maybe if you let it sit a really, really long time and then you don't pull anything off the bottom. So I think you could add it either way. I think, because with dry hopping, I think I normally put that in the primary and then move it into the secondary so I don't get all the dry hop stuff in there. So It just depends. I mean, it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. You know, people argue about this all the time. I mean, I read an article not too long ago, again, about dry hopping, where they were talking about putting it in a bag versus just throwing it in. And, you know, it's like they were coming to blows on it online.
Yeah, people are passionate.
Yeah, and I started bagging it now because I just don't want all that crap, jamming up my dip tube and everything else. And I think it works great. But some people would say, "Are you crazy? You can't put it in a bag." So
that reminds me.
I don't know. There's just so many opinions on when to do things. I mean, try it.
Dude, that keg of Happy Little Hops, we still have some left, and it gets clawed like every third pour because it's my dad.
Oh, that'd be frustrating.
I put it in a bag. It works great. I think it works great.
My poor pop, he's like, so he has a liquid disconnect on the second body of one of our regulators. And so he just puts it on the liquid side and, to get the clogging done. But then the next pour is basically just foam. It's just full,
or trub.
Yeah. So I have a funny story about that. I the same beer, when I had a keg of it, what I ended up doing, because I got so frustrated, is I took everything. I took the poppets out of my disconnect, and in that way, I wasn't. It seemed to cut down on the issue a lot, and it works fine as long as you also remove the stuff from your post.
Yeah,
but it's very important to remember you did that, because when if you go in and decide you're going to take the disconnect off, there's beer shooting out like a soda fountain in your. Yes. So you got to take all the gas off first before you take it off. I do not recommend doing that, because as an older fellow, I found that I forgot every single time. So.
Oh my gosh! I wish I would have seen that. That would have been a great photo. I haven't even heard this story yet. Like that's.
I was always leaning over, pulling it off. So typically, instead of shooting way up in the air, it would hit me in the forehead. So.
Holy moly, that is too good.
Oh, that's so funny.
And trying to bring it back to Carl's question. I've never used adjuncts again, unless we're talking about dry hopping. I've never used adjuncts. I know. I guess we would count Joe recently that blackberry puree.
Yeah.
That was
anything.
What's the last adjunct y'all have even used? Because I don't even know y'all like.
I used peel, grapefruit peel when I did that grapefruit. I forgot
the
name
summer
of
nights that has
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So what I did was I peeled the grapefruit. I didn't get the white stuff on the inside, just the outside part, and then I baked it in the oven. So that I would think that would be an adjunct. Now I put that in with the hops. I put that in with the dry hops in the bag, and it worked great.
Yeah, that is still like one.
And that was in the primary.
I have a couple of bottles of yours left. You gave me a 6-pack. I took it to the beach. My dad, I'm going to throw him under the bus. He didn't like it that much. I loved it, though. How funny is that my dad didn't like your IPA, but I loved it? Like, my dad
I've never cared for him.
Yeah. You know what, though? Next time you see him, you can tell him how you feel about his Kolsch I brought up.
There you go. There you go.
But I didn't realize you did I do because we talked about it on the recipe recap that you use the actual rind for the grapefruit. So that was a good touch. That did seem to make a difference because I feel like you've had 3 or 4 kegs of summer nights that I've been drowning in the last few trips up there, but they've been from various batches because you brewed them different ways, right? Like
nope, just brewed one time. I had it last night.
What was the one that we did an extract and all grain on? Was that was?
No, that was my first pale ale.
Oh, that wasn't the grapefruit. My bad. Yeah, I'm just drinking all your beer. I'm just, after the 4th.
And, but I will throw this in. Every beer Todd's been brewing has been absolutely solid.
Oh God, don't do that to me. You just jinxed me bad.
Yeah, way to go,
I don't know if
James.
that's because he's so anal when it comes to brewing and temperature. You don't even get me started on temperature.
Dude, you have been nailing them. Like I remember we've had our moments. Like James had a good that whole 2.5 year run on the Grainfather. Every recipe was just killer. Boom, 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 boom. And you still brew great recipes, but you always talk about now you always preface your recipes. You're like that lemon drop is incredible. And I forgot what you criticized about it. I was like, I'll take it. If James
he thought it was too dry. I think it's perfect.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And that had an adjunct. I put 4 ounces of lemon drop.
Oh,
pops,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm in a terrible funk now. I haven't had a great beer since the breakfast stout clone. Yeah, no, I haven't had a great beer since the breakfast stout clone late last year. It was great. But Todd, you haven't had a funk, and it's your turn, my friend. It's your turn.
It's my turn to have a bad beer. I'm not going to be able to walk through the door when I leave. No, it's everybody has a bad batch of beer. It happens. If you never ever have a bad batch of beer, you're not experimenting enough. You're not.
That's right.
You're not doing.
It'll happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, it's almost inevitable if you're trying new things and doing things differently, and
that's right.
Trying to expand your knowledge. So.
That's right. And to wrap up Carl's question, I think what James said is the best bet. Like if you are going to plan on using adjuncts, plan on using a secondary, my friend. That would be your best course of action. I think you get the best results in what you're trying to achieve with that batch of beer. So that wraps up the show, my friends. That was great. We went. That was actually it was one of our longer episodes without feeling like it. I think we got a lot of information out there. And I'm just happy that we were able to get these questions in. I guess I will see you guys soon. And thank you for y'all's time, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the Submit a Question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, homebrewsupply.com, for supporting us and the homebrewing community. Save 5% off your order when you visit homebrewsupply.com and use our promo code HHH. You can also get even better discounts when you join our Patreon by visiting patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and join our community. Thank you.